Basically, if we look at the end goal, the idea is to be able to answer these essay questions. And what they do is they hint at, um, they'll either say straight up, there's a certain market structure, or they'll hint at it. In this case here, they're talking about oligopolies and monopolies.
Mm.
Or in this case here, they're talking about competition or not having competition.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and in this case, they're talking about monopoly power again, okay? So the idea is they will always ask about a monopoly, a market structure such as monopoly power or oligopolies or competition. And they'll want us to be able to evaluate whether that market structure is for the good or for the bad, okay?
Yeah.
So when we do market structures, the first thing I want you to understand is how do we weigh them up? How do we evaluate them before we even start the market structures, okay?
Mhm.
We do that, and there's a lot of ways to do it using like basically waffle. There's like common sense approaches as well. Like in general, monopolies are bad because they charge too much high prices, or competition is good because there's so much variety. Like there's common sense approaches as well, but to avoid waffle and get the top marks, I
Yeah.
want you to learn these definitions, okay?
Yeah.
And understand what they mean. So we've got productive efficiency,
Mm.
allocative efficiency, dynamic efficiency, and contestability. These four definitions will be plenty to judge and evaluate any market structure in any essay. So what do they mean? For all of the four things, we're going to learn a worded definition. So that an example, like an example and a way that you can describe it in normal English, and like a diagram or maths definition for it. So I'll start with the hard bit, which is the diagram definition. So productive efficiency is when MC equals AC, or actually no, and then allocative efficiency is when AR equals MC, and then these two are just words anyway. So that's the hard bit done. I'm going to explain how to remember
Yeah.
them and why
Mm.
to know these. So this one is when you're at the bottom, when the firm is operating at the quantity which minimizes average cost. Okay.
Yeah.
So some firms are good because they operate at a quantity which minimizes average cost. Some firms are bad because they operate at a quantity which does not minimize average cost. And that leads to waste, or it's this certain type of efficiency or inefficiency that we talk about. Okay.
Right.
Allocative efficiency. First of all, we're going to go through the diagrams one by one anyway, but the AR curve is your demand curve, and the marginal cost is kind of like your supply curve. So in year 12 microeconomics, you'll just know all markets to be like this because we only learned the basic one, demand and supply. You have this price and this quantity, Q1 and P1, and
Yeah.
this was known as efficient. Okay.
Mm.
The reason being, it maximized what's known as consumer surplus and producer surplus. Okay. When
All right.
year 12 stuff, we can go into that in more detail, but generally, this allocation is efficient. Okay.
Mm.
Relatively efficient because resources are allocated in a way which is fair for consumers and fair for producers because there's enough amount of consumers who benefit and there's enough amount of producers who benefit.
Okay. Yeah.
Monopolies, for example, will not be allocatively efficient because they have so much market power. Despite this being equilibrium, they're gonna operate at some crazy high price. So they might operate at this price here and only sell that much.
Mm.
And
Monopolies.
yeah, monopolies. Okay.
All right.
We're going to go through one by one each market structure, but that's just the idea of so that you don't forget what allocatively efficient means.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
basically when supply equals demand,
Yeah.
But we can't say demand equals supply. We have to say DR equals MC. And
Mm.
when we're backing up our point with more analysis, it's the quantity. It's when the firm is operating at a quantity which maximizes total welfare, consumer and producer surplus.
Okay.
And dynamic efficiency, lastly, is when a firm is able to make a supernormal profit in the long run. So consistently make profit, not just for one day, that would be in the short run, but consistently make supernormal profit. And why is that important? Because that can also be a good thing. Firms who make supernormal profit are more able and more likely than firms who do not make any profit to reinvest. These firms are able to reinvest their profits and produce, and they can innovate their products, which
Uh,
which in the long run will benefit consumers, right?
uh,
As an example, if the iPhone 5 did not make any profit, the iPhone 15 wouldn't exist.
mm, okay.
The last one is contestability. So contestability is just whenever there are low barriers to entry, we can call that market contestable. It means
Mm,
that there is hit and run competition. Basically, some firms, they are able to be the only firm in the market forever, and they're able to keep on charging very high prices. We can consider that as a bad outcome because it would be better if there's a possibility for someone else to join into the market. So if Uber was the only taxi company, they would keep charging high prices. However, over time, we've seen Bolt and Free Now
mm,
and stuff come into the market, and that keeps Uber on their toes and prevents them from overcharging customers.
yeah, okay.
So you probably understand all of these in English, but I want you to also know that first bit, which is a little bit harder to remember.
All right, so I'll write this in, that'll be like one paragraph for all,
Um, I'm going to
or
show you
less.
because what we're
Right.
going to do now is one by one, we're going to go through all the market structures, starting with monopoly. Then we're going to go through oligopoly. Then we're going to go through monopolistic competition.
Mm.
And then we're going to go through perfect competition.
Oh, I was at the evaluation point, so okay, I see.
Use when we're talking about these to describe whether they're good or bad.
All right.
So we're not actually going to use that as a paragraph, basically, but we're going to be putting them inside these paragraphs.
Mm.
Okay.
Yep.